I'm so excited. Hi, it's Romania Black, and I'm excited because I'm watching 4 episodes of Ace of the Diamond. Not 3 like per usual, but 4, because I have been recommended to watch 13, 14, 15, and 16 together. And I'm not gonna lie, it's only been about like 4 or 5 days since I watched episodes 10 through 12 of Ace of the Diamond. I usually only watch it once a week, but I was like, I'm going out of town. This is literally like the night before I go out of town. So I was like, I want to watch these 4 episodes before I go. I don't think I could wait a whole week. I'm sorry y'all have to wait a week. But after that whole thing with Furuya and his whole being selfish, and Sawamura reaching out to his Kohei, to Asada, and then Koshu saying he wants to warm up with him, I've wanted for the last like 4 episodes for Koshu and Sawamura to have a little practice session together, and we're finally going to get it. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. I poured myself some tea. I've got my notebook to take notes. We've got 4 episodes to get through. I was told that the cliffhanger between 15 and 16 was a doozy, and I was like, fine, I'll just watch all 4 together and it'll work out great. So I'm so hyped, y'all. I cannot even begin to describe it, but it's fine. So let's not waste any more time. The last 3 episodes, this whole season's been great. I've loved Act 2 so far. I much prefer, I love the games themselves. They're they're fast paced, they're high stakes, they're hype, but I love the downtime that we get in between games in this series, and the downtime we've had so far has been amazing. So yeah, let's just find out. I've waited all day to watch this, and I was like, I can't wait any longer. So we're going to watch Ace of the Diamond, Act 2, episodes 13 through 16. Oh, buddy. And we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see y'all on the other side. Oh. Damn. I'm glad y'all had me watch the 4 episodes in a row. I'm glad you did. It would have sucked to have waited a whole week and then came back to them losing. What were these episodes? I'm glad we're getting to like the root of Furuya's deal, and there's like a lot of contradictions and things that are coming out in the wash here that are interesting, but Sawamura being angry and frustrated. Not angry, but frustrated. It was really satisfying to see Sawamura be frustrated and just let it all out, because he's our sunshine boy. And usually, what I like about Sawamura's character is that even though he is a sunshine character, he's always happy and upbeat and loud and extroverted and outgoing, but he's not dumb. He can be dense, but he's not dumb. And he thinks of things. He's been focusing on trying to think of like the numbers, and then when he tries to think about the pitching and everything, he goes back to what Miyuki was telling him watching the game. Like he's aware and perceptive, and he thinks things through, but he gets frustrated. And I love that, because you don't see a lot of sunshine characters just letting out their frustrations, and his are warranted. So warranted in this. I was like, are you kidding me? And we're going to go back, because Kataoka was a pitcher, and he was the ace. And so yeah, these episodes, I have a feeling we're going to have a lot to talk about in the comments section. It's just going to be like, Amahisa boy. Amahisa's like, let's be friends, Sawamura. What an unlikely friendship. And Sawamura's like, get away from me. This is not the time. But Kosei's like so socially awkward, he doesn't realize now is not the best time. They just lost to you and you're asking him about pitch seams. And he's like, no, I don't want to talk to you about the grips on the balls. Go away. And it seemed like at the end when he went to watch the game, he was in good spirits. So I'm like, at least Kosei can take a hint and he doesn't get dejected. He doesn't feel dejected. But holy crap. Okay. So I like that Kaoru and them established in episode 13. I guess we'll just start from there. I can't believe that it's already over. The tournament's over. And that they didn't make it past quarterfinals. Now we got summer to worry about. But yeah, so Sawamura, his control is good. We get the idea of the numbers. The numbers are the breaking balls, which I was wondering that in the last episode. I'm like, are the numbers the breaking balls? And they've just numbered them? They have. And the way that Miyuki explains it to Koshu is that the ones that they are doing are the ones that have stuck. They've got at least 11 at least 11 different pitches Sawamura can do, but they've only been practicing with the ones that really work, that Sawamura is the most comfortable with. So we have number 11, which is the breaking ball. Kaoru, he's like pitches, and Kaoru tells Koshu that Sawamura's pitches are hard to catch, which is interesting, right? That his pitches are hard. And then number 4 is the 4-seam. And then number 2 is the 2-seam shoot ball. Number 7 is the improved cutter, which is one they've been working on. And I forget what number 6 was, but that was the other one that they struggled with. But he manages to do them in the game, right? And Miyuki got that when he says Furuya is lucky to be on the same team and the same grade as Sawamura. Because Miyuki's kind of, I feel like he's tapping into what Kataoka said last season, where Furuya and Sawamura will only continue to grow by spurring each other on. Like, they encourage each other to grow as rivals. And Miyuki's like, if Furuya didn't have someone like Sawamura to be challenged by, then he probably wouldn't grow the same way, right? He wouldn't have that motivation. And, God, we'll talk about Furuya. And I like that Miyuki also says, Miyuki gives Sawamura a lot of the benefit in this. He says, Furuya, you're not the only one that experienced Koshin. You're not the only one that experienced nationals and walked away from it with something. Like Sawamura walked away from it with that bullpen dirt, determined to not be in that same position, right? And so, we'll talk about that. That is so frustrating. I'm like on Sawamura's page. I get why he's frustrated. Oh, but so Ichidai's coaches. I like with his biceps and his casual clothes. I'm like, Kataoka is clearly the better looking coach, but I was like, man, all right, coach boy, you can do it. But yeah, and Kosei looking good, like doing good there. If we go back to that damn journal though, in episode 13, that's like the focal point of all 4 of these episodes, is that damn journal that Kataoka is reading. And when he gets to Furuya's entry, and the way that Furuya's voice actor says that line, it's so perfect and heartbreaking. But he says, I lack so much. I lack so much, and I need to get better. And if I'm the best, then the team can be the best. And there's a part of me that Kataoka let his emotions get over control of him. Absolutely. Kataoka, and it may be that Kataoka sees some of Furuya in himself, that maybe some of Furuya's frustrations are Kataoka's frustrations that he had at that age. And so Kataoka's projecting a little bit of himself onto Furuya, and that's why he kept him in, to try to give Furuya a chance to get back in the rhythm, and it spiraled, and to the point where Ochiai, of all people, is like, maybe you should switch pitchers. I'm like, if Ochiai is telling you that, what? But yeah, it got to that point. But I'm absolutely determined that Kataoka was emotionally compromised in this game. Like, he should have switched Sawamura out he should have switched Sawamura in there before they even got to the 5th inning. But when they were in the 4th inning and he was still doing like ball after ball and was doing and walking people left and right, I'm like, they should have switched him out then and been like, you need to just take 5 and let Sawamura come in. But they didn't. We'll talk about it. But I feel... And him starting Furuya, I'm sure, is based on him reading that journal. I really want to know what Sawamura's journal says, and maybe he's not gotten to Sawamura's journal yet. Maybe that's going to be like the next turning point. But him just saying that he's going to start Furuya as the pitcher, and Ochiai is like, I would have started with Sawamura because they have a lot of left-handed batters. Seems like that would be the better strategy, Kataoka. Why are we doing this? But he starts with him. And Sawamura, at the beginning of the game, and even in the coaches' meeting before the game when they're picking the pitchers, Sawamura wasn't angry that Furuya was starting. He was like, okay, because he said, Furuya's going to start, Nori and Sawamura, you guys be ready to come in early. And Sawamura's like, yep, can do. Like, he wasn't complaining that he didn't get to start the game. He was totally fine with it. He's fine up until the point where it just gets to where Furuya is, like, embarrassing himself. Like, it's just so bad. And he's like, what is the deal? But... yeah, Ochiai being like, I don't know if I agree with this plan. And Miyuki starts off by having the right mentality. Like, Amahisa, we've established with Kosei, he takes a little bit to warm up and get in a rhythm. He has to, like, get in sync with himself and get his pitching in sync. But once he is in a rhythm, then he's very hard to stop. So Miyuki's like, we need to take advantage of it now while he's warming up and get some runs in early, which they do. And I love Miyuki's like, yes. Like, I like his fist bump, like, yes, please. I really, really like that. To take advantage early on in the game. But man, I kept wanting to see what him and Masashi's battling it out would look like, but it really just strikes him out. And so I did not get... He got more of a reaction with Sawamura than he did Masashi, which is surprising. I thought Masashi was going to be his focal point, but he's like, you're just a first year. You're still a baby. But Sawamura's got Kosei's attention. I'm like, oh no! Sawamura's starting to collect people. He's starting to collect the catchers and pitchers. It's only a matter of time before he has them all. That's why it was so frustrating that Mei didn't get to see him pitch. I wanted to know Mei's viewpoint of Sawamura, but I think that's intentional. I think that the mangaka, because we didn't face Inashiro yet because we're not ready. No, we're going to talk about that, but Sato is not ready to face Inashiro at this point. They're just not. And we'll talk about why. But I think that the fact that Mei didn't see Sawamura pitch is intentional by the mangaka. I think the mangaka is saving that for when Inashiro and Sato match up again. Because Mei will not have seen how much Sawamura has improved, and he'll be surprised, and we'll get to hear his viewpoints. I live for Mei's commentary about pitching, because Mei's so good at pitching, and he's so, like, reflective about it, that I really like what Mei's opinions about the pitchers are, because usually they're pretty on point. Usually Mei is pretty on point about the pitchers, and we'll talk about that with Furuya. But yeah, Mei, I love Mei with his nose up in the air the whole time. He's like looking down at Furuya like, what are you doing? Like, just he has his nose up in the air. He's so snobby and diva-ish. Mei can just steal a show by just appearing on screen. It's great. But Miyuki says that Furuya's talent is to overpower. Overpowering is his talent. And yeah, that is Furuya's talent. The speed and the power, that's it. But Furuya doesn't have the control right now, and it's killing him. And so by the 5th inning, Miyuki is seeing what is needed, what they need to work on. And Furuya needs to pitch better. He needs to help alleviate the fielders. His pitches need to help alleviate. Well, here's what I was reading my notes because I'm like, it's all over the place. Miyuki's like, okay, I see what we need to work on with Furuya. I see what our problem is. And Furuya makes the comment that he needs to improve his pitches to help the fielders so that they don't feel like they're as stressed. And he starts to get worked up. And it's weird. It's weird seeing Furuya worked up emotionally because usually he's not emotional. Usually he gets tired out. But seeing Furuya get tense and emotional and stressed out to the point where Haruichi's like, you need to calm down it's something. But we'll talk about that double standard, right? That double standard with Furuya because he's the ace. And Kaoru is watching what Miyuki is doing to Furuya. He's like, okay, he's calming him down. Okay, this is what needs to happen. It's great. And this track takes us into episode 14. And Kosei, what? I love Kosei's humor. He's like this weird slam poet that's also a pitcher because he's talking about Zono dragging down the team's facial score. But then he comments that Masashi, he's no finesse but a good face. I'm like, what? What is happening? And then Kosei starts to get into a rhythm. And I like this comment that they make about Kosei, that he carries himself like a pro. We've been talking in the Discord about characters that could go pro in this series. And Kelsey, I think it was Kelsey that mentioned it. One of the first ones, because she really likes Kosei. But one of the first ones she mentioned was Kosei. And after this episode, after episode 14, I'm like, yeah, I could see Kosei going pro. Not necessarily because he's an amazing pitcher. He's a great pitcher. But the way that he carries himself, like even when he started out having a rough game and giving up 2 runs, he acts like it's nothing. He's just like, it's fine. I'll get in a rhythm. It's all good. I know what I need to do. He knows his role. And that's Sawamura's thing. He's like, I know my role. I know what I'm supposed to do. Kosei's like, I know my role and what I'm supposed to do. It'll just take me a second, but I'll get there. It'll be fine. That kind of calm, cool demeanor is something that him not getting frustrated or flustered, it allows them to like slowly and steadily win the race. But yeah, it's interesting. And then Mukai, what a brat. It's like Mukai saying, I don't like self-absorbed pitchers. And calling Kosei and them a self-absorbed pitcher. And I love that Inui at one point, like the lightning like strikes him. He's like, what? Like, what? Mukai's such a brat. And I honestly want Mei to just shut him up. Mukai's not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of Mukai because he's so snobby. But I'm like, do you have the talent to back it up? Because Mei's a diva, but Mei's got the talent to back it up. Does Mukai. So it'll be interesting seeing these battle of diva pitchers, because other than Mei, I would say Mukai's the most diva-ish. So that's going to be interesting to see to see how they do things. But I love Kosei saying it's the batter's job to score. We don't have to worry about anything. It's not my job. It's the batter's job to score. And so I don't have to worry about, all I have to do is pitch, and it's not my job to increase the runs for the team. That's the batter's job. And we're going to get into that with Sato, because Sato, their batting has improved, but it's not where it needs to be to face Inashiro, right? If worse comes to worse, and you have two amazing pitchers, then it's going to fall to your batting. And if it's not up to snuff with the other team, then you're going to lose. And Kosei knows that. And so Kosei and Sawamura were on the same wavelength in these episodes, which I was like, no wonder Kosei wants to be Sawamura's new BFF, and Sawamura's like, who are you? Like, it's great. But by the 5th inning, so in comparison, by the 5th inning, Furuya had pitched 80 balls. By the end of the 8th inning, Kosei had pitched 142, which is about 60 more. So about double that. So it's about the same. But that's a lot. And yeah, and even when the one girl, she's like, is that a lot? And Ochiai's like, it is. Like, Ochiai's starting to see the writing on the wall, perhaps. But then Mukai's shade when Inoue's like, he just needs because Furuya's pitching was not good at this game at all. It was really bad. Was not good. And it's kind of like, I thought at Nationals, they're letting Furuya pitch even up till the end when they lose. I'm like, okay. But Mukai's shade, because Inoue is like, he needs a good pitch that he can focus on as a base. That's what Inoue says. And then Mukai's like, he just needs a pitch. And I was like, oh my god, that shade. It's like, he just needs a good pitch. I'm like, Mukai, you're just like spilling the tea all over the place. Yikes. But then we cut to Mei. And Mei commenting like, oh my god. Mei's like, that Furuya is me back in the fall. He's like self-important and unable to relax. And trying to think that it's the ace that leads the team to victory. But it's not. The ace is the heart of the team, but it's not their job to lead the team to victory. They just have a role. And Sawamura basically said, he's like, my role is just to get the batters out, and my team will help me do the rest. Like, that's it. And Furuya is pinning all of his pressure on being the ace and saying that it's him that has to lead the team to victory. And Mei's like, I did that song and dance last fall. It didn't work out, and I found out the hard way. But the thing of it is, the thing that's so frustrating is that Mei had a wake-up call. Mei was like, I realized what I was doing wrong, and has like this tearful wake-up call. At the end of this last game, Furuya's getting interviewed, and he's just like, I lost us the game. But I'm like, is he having a breakdown like Mei? And maybe we'll see it in the next episode. I don't know. But I'm like, I don't think Furuya, I think it weighs heavy on Furuya, his responsibility. And that's why Miyuki says it's not self-importance, but I'm like, it kind of is, I think. But Furuya weighs so much on himself and pins so much blame on himself for everything. But I'm like, dude, you just need to let that go and just focus on the present. And the one guy in the stands after the game is like, I hope he didn't burn out at Nationals. I'm like, I hope Furuya didn't burn out either too. I hope he didn't peak at Nationals and that's the best he can do. It's Icarus. It's flying too close to the sun. But episode 15 then, we get that's 2-1. Kosei's up to bat and Masashi misses. And so yeah, they're 2-1, and then Masashi misses that hit and makes it 3-2. And it's like, oh my god. And then Miyuki says that Furuya is not being self-important because he's taking responsibility. And I'm like, but I think I agree more with Mei that Furuya is acting a bit like Mei. He's having the same struggles that Mei had back at the fall tournament. And if Furuya can get over it, if Furuya can get over that wall, then I think he'll be like Mei and be really set and be a strong pitcher. But we're going to talk about this. But if he can get over that wall, because Nationals, Kataoka makes the comment that Nationals has made him hungry for more. And yeah, but there's a difference between being hungry and greedy. And I think Sawamura's hungry too. But Sawamura knows his place. And Mei's like, will Furuya overcome this, or is it going to drag him down? And I don't know, but my big thing is that Sato is not Furuya. They're trying to make Furuya into Mei and into Hongo and into Kosei, but I don't think that he is gonna be like that. I think the relay is their best strategy because you have Nori, you have Sawamura, and you have Furuya, 3 different pitchers with very different styles that have their own set of strengths and weaknesses. But if you use them together as a team, Kataoka, like what you said 2 times in the last set of episodes, as a team, then, because this is the contradiction. This is where the contradiction comes in. He said back in episode 10, he was like, Kataoka said, we need to play despite our jersey number as a team. Well, I agree with Sawamura. I think that in this game, Kataoka let the jersey number get in his head. And the fact that Furuya was the ace, Kataoka's like, we'll just let him ride it out. And to the point where Ochiai was getting worried and stand up and like, hey, maybe we should switch out pitchers. Maybe just, they're going to get ahead to a point where we can't catch up. And by that point, it was too late. And Kataoka, he was so emotionally compromised that he was just like, oh shit, yeah, we need to swap him out. And God, Sawamura's frustration, his anger, he's like, what are you doing? Because it's not the fact that Furuya was pitching really well and he got tired or injured. It was that Furuya was just giving balls. He was just throwing balls. He was just not pitching good at all. And Sawamura's like, what are you doing? Why are you still out there? And we'll talk about the double standard. It's there. But the moment seeing Sawamura fired up, I got fired up. I was like, oh, there it is. Sawamura being like, I know my role. I know what I'm here to do. Furuya's not been doing his role, but I know what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, oh, shoot. And he has a great game. And I love this. He's like, Furuya, I don't know what you're up against. He's like, I don't know what you're dealing with right now, what your issue is. But he's like, all I can do is be true to myself and take down the batters. That's all a pitcher needs to do. It's like you take your personal issues and your personal squabbles and you put that out to the side when you're on the mound. You deal with that later. This episode 16 is called Only After You've Won. It's like, and that ties back to in the finale of season 2 when Kuramochi's like, okay, after this game's over, then you deal with that injury and you take care of yourself, all right? It's the same thing here with Furuya. Sawamura's like, yeah, you may have some personal issues. Deal with that when the game's over. And then go back to it then. But we got a game to play. This is not the time for you to, like, wallow. And it's great. I'm glad. I'm, like, so proud of Sawamura that he's, like, fired up and is like, oh, no. I think this episode, we talked this season, the last set of episodes, that Sawamura, like, one way that Sawamura, I think, could make his way towards becoming the ace is having this team mentality that, like, no, we work as a team and all the team members are a cohesive unit. The second thing that I think is going to help him become the ace is this set of episodes where he was like, no, he's like, I know what my role is. I know why I'm here. Like, let's do this and just quit squabbling around. But, oh my God. So episode 15, going with that, Kosei's impressed with Sawamura. He's like, oh, who's this pitcher? He has that, like, surprise face. He's like, oh my gosh, what? And Ichidai, the one guy from Ichidai, he did remember Sawamura from Nationals. He remembered watching him pitch and being like, he's the one that struck out those guys. Like, he had a really good game. So there are people that remember Sawamura. He just doesn't have, like, the flashy entourage of fangirls and the people that watched Furuya at Nationals. But there are people that remember Sawamura and are catching on. But, oh man, in the moment when Kataoka gives him the head pat, I thought that was really sweet. I was like, oh my God, Kataoka, this is like the most affection he's shown Sawamura as a player. Like giving him the head pat and saying, you saved me, I'm sorry. And Sawamura, he's like, it's not over, boss. This is not the time to apologize. You're the damn coach. No. But then when he says, damn it, don't apologize to me. Like, no, in hindsight, once episode 16 started, it was like, no, it is a double standard that Sawamura is calling out. And I'm so satisfied that he's calling it out. I want him to address it to Kataoka, but I don't know if you can respectfully address that to your coach or not, or how that works. I don't know how he would do that, but I want him to. I want him to, because yeah, just the double standard of it all, where he's like, if it had been me that had pitched that. Notice, the manager at no point while Furuya is pitching does the manager go, where's Nori? Where's Nori? Like, he's oddly silent during this game. He's to the point where he was asking for Sawamura. Sawamura's like, if it had been me that had pitched like Furuya did, I would have been called out in the 5th inning. He wouldn't have left me in for another inning. No. He's like, that never would have happened. He's like, I would have been subbed out. And so I understand Sawamura's frustration. He's like, just because I'm not, he's like, you told me, coach, the numbers didn't matter. Well, they clearly do, because you kept Furuya in. And it's the weirdest thing. It's like Kataoka wants to develop Furuya into this ace that can overcome what he's dealing with. Like, you can tell Kataoka means well. He wants Furuya to develop into an ace that can get over his personal hurdles and be confident in himself and realize that he's not lacking. He is a good pitcher. Because that thing that he says, I lack so much, I'm like, Furuya, you're an amazing pitcher. You're so self-loathing and critical of yourself, which Sawamura is critical of himself too, but I'm like, you both are so good. You need to recognize that. And I think Kataoka wanted to keep him in the game to let him build up that confidence, but then it just wasn't happening. And Oshai is like, semifinals is not the time for us to do this. And so it's, oh my God. But yeah, the double standard, the trust of the ace. Sawamura's like, that trust, like once you're the ace, you must really have a lot of trust with your coach that he'd leave you in after all that. And I don't think it's just that, because we've seen Tamba in prior seasons. Tamba got swapped out. We've seen Furuya get swapped out. It's just, I think Kataoka really let his emotional investment get in this, and it cost him the game. But everybody's recognizing Sawamura, that he's intense and he's here for it. Kuramochi's like, oh my God. And Sawamura holds him off. They don't score anymore. And that was my thing. When May and them are outside, and May's like, who's the one pitching now? He's like, they haven't, you mean for the last 3 innings, they haven't changed the score? Who's pitching? And they're like, Sawamura. And we don't get to see what May's thoughts are. But that's going to wait. It's so frustrating. And so Sawamura, when we talk about trust, he says that he trusts Miyuki. He trusts his captain. And Nori. I love what Nori tells Furuya, because Furuya is very silent after this. And Nori's like, he's like, Sawamura is doing really good today. And he's like, Sawamura inspires me. He's like, Sawamura always gives his best pitch when he's out there. And he's like, so I'm prepping to do the same if I'm needed. And he's like, I'm trying to do the exact same thing. And I love that. I love that Nori's like, Sawamura gives it his all when he goes out there. And so I want to do that too. And it's like, oh man, and then top of the eighth, Kosei is starting to, I like that the coach says that Kosei is hard to understand, and Kosei talks about his noise in his upper body, whatever that amounts to. But he still calls him a genius and a lucky boy, and saying they pitched 142 balls during the game, and that was starting to wear down, but they ended up winning 3-5. And and then I felt bad for Zono, because Zono was trying to like tie it up with his hit, and he got the pressure got to him, and it was too much. And that glance between May and Miyuki, when they leave the field, and Miyuki looks over to May, and May's like, how's that going? How's working with Furuya? Fun? Like, it's just like that look between exes. And I love that Itsuki looks over like, you guys got like a past? I love it. But it's just, they don't even need words. It's just May being like, well, we're going to go to finals. That was just like, that's just such a look. Like, they didn't even have to say a word. Such exes. But their batting, that's the big thing about this, is that their batting is not as good, because Sawamura makes the point of saying that my job, Sawamura and Kosei, I think both hit it in the head on this one. And that's where Furuya is lacking. May's figured it out, and he's become better for it, but Furuya's not there yet. But Sawamura and Kosei have both note in this that all they have to do is keep the hitters from getting on base. It's all a pitcher has to do. They just have to help keep them from getting on base, and then if a ball gets past them, it's the outfield's job to take care of it. But the pitcher is not going to stop a team from score. The pitcher is not going to help their team score. It's just going to stop the other team from scoring. And I think Furuya is just like, I have to be the best pitcher in order for us to win, and that's not it. No, you don't have to be the best. Sawamura's not the best. He's not the best pitcher in the world, no. But Sawamura knows what he needs to do. He knows what his job is as the pitcher. So he's like, I don't have to be the best at my job. I just have to do it. And I have to just do it well enough that they don't get on base. And Furuya's getting so up in his head about being the best. It's like, dude, you can't think that way. That's just not how this is going to work. And I'm still a little bit mad that Furuya doesn't have like a meltdown like May does, which I don't think we've ever really seen Furuya have an emotional meltdown or cry or do anything like that. But Furuya, he still get interviewed. I'm like, why would you interview him? Interview Sawamura. He had the better game. But they interview Furuya, and he says that I lost the game. Again, Furuya is putting all the blame on himself. He's saying, I lost the game. Like, our team didn't lose, I lost it. So Furuya putting all this responsibility and blame. I'm glad Furuya acknowledges his mistakes, but he doesn't seem to improve upon them. He just notes that they're there, but he doesn't do anything to improve upon them in this game. And then he still puts all the pressure on himself. It's very frustrating. And the idea that Sawamura has Kosei's attention. I love it. I love this. I love Kosei's like, so what's your grip? What are you... He's like trying to talk shop and have like a nerd talk with Sawamura about the grips. I'm glad Sawamura didn't tell him because, you know, that team just won. Kosei's team just beat Sato. So come on, Kosei. Give him some breathing room. Let him, like, get his cell phone number and text him later, you know? But there's that. And then there's the idea, I'm like, I don't know if you need to be telling all this secret, you know, team info to the opposition. But what I like is that Kosei, he sees Sawamura as someone that he wants to be friends with. He's like, oh, you have all these cool pitches. Let's talk about this. Let's have pitcher talk, nerd talk. And Sawamura's like, I'm just, like, needing to rest. Can you give me some space? Again, Kosei seemed to be fine at the end of the episode, so I'm sure he's okay. But the fact that Sawamura and him could become buddies is hilarious to me. I never would have imagined it, and now I love it. I'm like, okay, I want Kosei and Sawamura adventures where Kosei's just talking about off-the-wall, batshit crazy things, and Sawamura's like, I don't know what to tell you. But the thing of it is that the concept is brought up. If they'd done the relay like they normally do, then the outcome could have been different. If they'd done the relay and swapped pitchers out like they normally do and started with Sawamura, who knows? But who knows, right? Because Sawamura was on his game today because Furuya fired him up. Because he got so pissed off at Furuya. I'm like, oh. And at the end there, he sits up at the top of the stands by himself because I think, one, Sawamura's just too mad right now. He's just very frustrated and angry. Like, he doesn't even let the first years take his gear. He's like, I'm mad. I need to stew. I need to sit. And Miyuki being the boyfriend is like, what are you doing back there by yourself? Like, Miyuki goes back to check on him. But Sawamura's just pissed. Because, yeah, it all comes together. Sawamura's like, I'm so frustrated because Furuya monopolized Miyuki for catching, even though his pitching wasn't good. He still gets the interviews, even though his pitches weren't good. Kataoka still played him, even though he was doing horribly as a pitcher in this game. And when the game's over, he doesn't get yelled at. The coach doesn't have it. The coach is just like, well, we should have, might have done things different. And that whole line about, you saved me, Sawamura views it as patronizing. He's like, you're mocking me. Like, I'm glad I could come save you all. I'm glad I'm not the ace. It's just, I feel Sawamura's frustration. I feel it in this episode. And it's going to be interesting. Now that they're not advancing to finals, it's going to be interesting to see how does Sawamura... I want to see what Sawamura gets out of watching Mukai and Mei. I want to get what Sawamura gets out of it. I want to get what Furuya gets out of it. I still, like I've said all along, I can't be... Last episode, I was very frustrated with Furuya. Not because of his attitude necessarily, but because of how he treated Kaoru. Like, that was uncalled for. That you could have phrased it a different way. You could have just said, I'll pass and move on and just, I need some personal space. You could have just worded it that way, not been deliberately like, I just want Miyuki to pitch to me and not you. You could have done that. But what I get frustrated with is I think Furuya gets an easy pass sometimes. I think that, like Sawamura notes in this episode, he points out what everybody's thinking. He's like, I get the short end of the stick. And Furuya doesn't get called out on this. And so I want Sawamura to tell Miyuki his frustrations. Or tell Kataoka. I want Sawamura to vocalize it, being like, I did my job. What's going on here? And Furuya, I think Furuya just needs a stern talking to, darn it. And he needs to be held up to the same standard as Sawamura. But that's not how this mangaka rolls, is it? It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, y'all. I can't even... These episodes were really, really good. Episode 15 was amazing. That Sawamura getting fiery. I'm all here for frustrated Sawamura. If Sawamura... Because that's a cool connection, too, also to Hongo. Hongo challenges his anger and his frustration into pitching, and it works. And Sawamura kind of does the same thing here. He channels that frustration. He's our sunshine boy. He's here to support the team, but he channels that frustration and is like, I'm gonna just take it out on these batters and do my job. Like, if that's what it takes, if Sawamura being frustrated is like where we have to go to get him to pitch perfectly, I'm like, okay. Now the question is, I don't think Kataoka would ever do anything like Nita and spurn that on. But who knows? Maybe he'll just keep using Furuya as the ace and make Sawamura pissed off this entire season, and he'll be like Hongo 2.0. I don't know. The one thing I forgot to mention on my notes, looking back at this, is that Sato points out that Sawamura has the ability to bring up the whole mood of the stadium. That Koshu notices as well. It's a different vibe than Furuya. Furuya gets like the hype, right? Furuya has hype. But Sawamura has like this energy to him that like it's infectious. Like everybody doing the yes, 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 like all the chanting and stuff. It's this infectious attitude that's like a sunbeam. And it's so awesome. And so yeah, and then Kosei being impressed with him too. This set of episodes were frustrating at times, but I'm really, really happy with where Sawamura is at right now as a pitcher. I'm just like off the mound. How is he going to address this to Kataoka? How is he going to address this to Furuya and to Miyuki? I feel like Sawamura is like about to blow up on them and be like, what's the deal? But I don't know if he'll do that, though, because then he doesn't want to, like... Well, the tournament's over. They're not in the tournament anymore, so maybe he can say something. I don't know. I'm really, really curious. And I want Furuya to get over his slump. I do. I want Furuya to get over his slump and to become the pitcher that he was at Nationals again. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes about doing that this season. Can he do that? How is Sawamura going to respond to it? Like, what are we going to do? That's what I'm curious about. So, these episodes were great. They were great. And I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. So, I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction and this discussion, but I'm really curious to know what y'all thought down below about these games. Oh, buddy, I'm curious to know where we're going to from here. I'm glad Koshu got to catch for Sawamura. He's been hit by the Nakama beam. He wants to catch that white fire. He wants to catch for Sawamura now. It's on. He's been bitten by the bug. He's addicted now. It's only a matter of time. I'm excited for him, but I guess we're going to have a Tato versus Inashiro and see how that goes. So, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episodes 17, 18, and 19 of Ace of the Diamond Act 2.